I'll never forget the morning I walked out to feed my herd and found a brand new ivory-white Rolls-Royce Ghost sprawled across my barn door, just sitting there like a challenge. The chrome gleamed in the early sun. The paint still smelled, like the dealer's fresh wax, and it was perfectly blocking the only way my 48 McCormick Deering Farmall could get out. And of course it belonged to the self-appointed queen of our little suburban sprawl, Veronica Vance, or Ronnie as we affectionately didn't call her. She was leaning against the hood, oversized sunglasses hiding her eyes, a thin, smug smile playing on her lips, daring me to say something about her $300,000 hunk of metal. You see, Ronnie has this special talent for turning a Tuesday into a full-blown existential crisis, but that day, she didn't just park a car. She planted a flag right on my heritage. My name is Jedediah Stone, but everyone just calls me Jed, and I've spent every one of my 54 years working this patch of earth, Stone Creek Ranch. It's not just dirt and timber like the HOA brochure says. Its roots, its history. My granddaddy built that barn with his own 2 hands, and around here neighbors used to wave from tractors. They didn't report each other for unsightly hay bales or the noise of my prize-winning leghorn, Rooster Cornelius. But that was before the Willow Creek Preserve HOA moved in, bringing their granite countertops, their pristine lawns, and their endless, soul-sucking rules. Ronnie was the one leading the charge, the kind of woman who thought a clipboard and a polyester blazer gave her the moral authority of a Supreme Court justice. The war started small, naturally. She complained Cornelius crowed too early and disrupted her holistic morning cleanse. I told her the rooster didn't own a wristwatch. Then it was the dust from my harvest, the smell of fresh manure, even demanding I paint my 150-year-old barn the approved shade of taupe. She once had the gall to march right up during hay season and demand I tarp the bales because they were an eyesore from the road. I just looked at her and asked, "Ronnie, should I put little curtains on my cattle too?" She didn't laugh. Ronnie never laughed unless it was followed by a fine. She was obsessed with the idea that my farm, my entire way of life, was dragging down property values, and I'd overheard her whispering at the board meetings. Maybe Jed should consider selling. The proper development would really lift the community aesthetic. What she meant was, she wanted me gone, my land scraped flat and named something equally saccharine like Golden Meadows Estates. So when I found that Rolls-Royce, the new pinnacle of her arrogance, parked across my lifeline, I knew it was the final message. It was a test to see if her wealth, her HOA friends, and her flashy toys were bigger than my history, my work, and my survival. I walked right up, keeping my voice low and steady. "Ronnie," I said, pointing to the Rolls-Royce, which still had temporary dealer tags dangling from the rearview mirror. "This isn't a parking spot. My cattle need feeding. My hay needs moving. I need the tractor out now." She pushed her sunglasses down her nose, giving me that practiced, condescending smirk. "Oh, Jed, I'm sure your little tractor can take a break. My landscapers are finishing my new Italian fountain feature, and I simply can't have the Royce getting dusty on the street. Surely your farm animals can wait a few hours, can't they? It's not like they're starving." That word, starving, lit a slow fuse in my gut. I tried the civilized route. I whipped out my phone and called the sheriff, a young deputy named Miller. I explained the situation, and I could practically hear him shrug through the receiver. "Mr. Stone, technically it's a civil issue, an HOA dispute. Unless she's actively trespassing or causing direct harm, there's not much the county can do." Click. I tried the HOA board that night, air conditioning blasting sparkling water on the table, and Ronnie sat at the head like Caesar. They listened to my plea about agricultural necessity. Then one of her cronies tapped his pen and said, "Tom, we understand, but community rules allow for temporary guest parking. Perhaps you could be more flexible." Ronnie leaned back, satisfied, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "Progress requires compromise, Jed. You cling to your old ways." I walked out of there that night feeling nothing but a helpless burning shame. Every door slammed shut. I'd tried reason. I'd tried the law. I'd tried the system. and all of them had sided with the woman who thought her luxury car was more important than my livestock's welfare. But as I stood on my porch the next morning, watching that white behemoth still mocking me, I remembered something my granddaddy always used to say. Son, when a problem can't be fixed with a word or prayer, it means the Almighty gave you a wrench and a hell of a lot of horsepower. Ronnie thought she had won by using paper and plastic. She didn't realize she'd just handed me the one weapon on my farm that knew nothing about HOA bylaws. I didn't need a lawyer anymore. I needed the 48 Farmall, and I knew exactly what I was going to do next. I walked toward the equipment shed, each step heavier than the last, but my mind was utterly clear. That Rolls-Royce wasn't just a car. It was the physical embodiment of every insult, every fine, every smug chuckle at my expense over the last 5 years, and it was about to learn a lesson in physics. The shed door creaked open, sunlight spilling onto the faded red body of my McCormick Deering. It was an old machine, scarred and patched, but it was honest. It had pulled us through floods and droughts. I climbed into the worn seat. The key turned with a satisfying industrial chunk, and when the engine roared to life, it wasn't the quiet purr of luxury. It was the deep working thunder of a machine built for war. The sound rolled across the fields. Chickens scattered, the cattle lifted their heads, and even the live oaks seemed to hold their breath. Ronnie, who had been lounging on the hood again, flashed. Her smug smile vanished, replaced by a sudden thin line of terror. The neighbors, who had been whispering behind their fences, whipped out their phones. The word had clearly spread that the farmer was finally losing it. This wasn't just revenge. This was theater, a reminder that some of us still played by older, stronger rules. I steered the Farmall out, its huge tires vibrating the ground. I stopped just a few feet from the Rolls-Royce's pristine hood and cut the engine. Not yet. I had to make my statement. I jumped down, wiping my hands on a greasy rag, and looked right at Ronnie. "Ronnie," I said, calm as a preacher, "move the car, final offer. I will help you find a safe spot, but my cattle are waiting, and I am done waiting on you." She stood her ground, her face pale behind the makeup, but the arrogance was still there, flickering. "You wouldn't dare, Jed. That's a $250,000 vehicle. You so much as scratch it, I'll sue you for everything you own. Your land, your herd, your dignity." She was banking on my fear, betting I didn't have the guts. I didn't answer. I just climbed back into the cab, fired the engine again, and the roar silenced the entire yard. The tension was unbearable, thick as molasses. Slowly, deliberately, I eased the hydraulics, lowering the front loader bucket until its rusty, blunt edge hovered like a guillotine right over the Rolls-Royce emblem. Ronnie shrieked, an ugly, terrified sound that cut through the engine noise. "Tom, don't you dare!" But I didn't move forward. I killed the engine one last time, letting the sudden silence rush back in. I leaned out the cab window, looking directly at the crowd of neighbors and at Ronnie's terrified, pale face. "You all see this," I shouted, my voice raw. "This is what happens when people think paper rules matter more than land, more than life, more than respect. She blocked my barn for 2 full days. My cattle are hungry." The board backed her up. "Well, I've had enough of being flexible." I started the engine. Again. I pressed my boot to the clutch and I inched forward. The moment the bucket made contact, the sound was horrific. A deep, tearing crunch that went right through the metal of the tractor and into my bones. The Rolls-Royce hood buckled like wet cardboard. The emblem snapped off and clattered to the dirt. Gasps erupted from the fence line, a mix of horror and sheer, stunned delight. I pushed the lever. The hydraulics hissed, and the windshield spiderwebbed, sending glittering shards across the ground. The expensive luxury machine let out a pathetic electronic wail as its alarm system kicked in. I rolled forward, the massive tires climbing the side panel. The suspension groaned, the alarm shrieked, and then I backed up slightly, giving it just enough room before rolling forward again, grinding what remained of the frame into a twisted, smoking ruin. Airbags burst like flags of surrender. The smell of scorched paint and hot oil mixed with the good, clean smell of hay and earth. Finally, I killed the engine and climbed down. The silence that followed was deafening, save for the Bentley alarm which sputtered and died with a pathetic whimper. Where the ghost had been, there was only a mangled pile of aluminum and leather. I walked right up to Ronnie, whose mascara was running down her cheeks, her face a mask of disbelief and rage. "You should have moved it when I asked," I said simply. She stumbled back, pointing a trembling finger. "I'll have the sheriff here in 5 minutes, Jed. You'll be bankrupt." "Good," I shrugged, pointing toward the wreckage. "I'll explain how your car was blocking my livestock access. Pretty sure the State Agricultural Freedom Act doesn't look kindly on that." Her mouth snapped shut. Deputy Miller pulled up and his jaw dropped when he saw the scene. He looked at the wreckage, then at Ronnie, and then at my honest working farmall. He sighed, pulling out his notepad. "Well, Jed," he muttered, "guess this one writes itself." He cited Ronnie for unlawful obstruction of agricultural operations, a state offense. As for me, he told me to file a claim, but given the necessity, he saw no grounds for criminal damage. The neighbors cheered, one of them hollering, "About time someone put that queen in her place." That night, as I shut the barn doors with full-bellied cattle, I felt lighter than I had in years. The HOA board dethroned Ronnie 3 days later, after the viral video hit the news, and the last of her influence just vanished. The wreck was towed off, leaving a scarred patch of earth that I didn't bother resodding. I liked seeing it there, a reminder that no matter how shiny the weapon, wealth and intimidation can't outmuscle grit and stubbornness. It taught me that standing your ground isn't about yelling louder. It's about refusing to let arrogance block your purpose. For me, it was an old tractor. For you, it might be something else entirely. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with a Ronnie who pushed you too far? And if someone parked a Rolls-Royce across your livelihood, what kind of horsepower would you use to move it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this tale of tractor justice brought a smile to your face, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, in this neighborhood, the drama never truly sleeps.